Hello friends, this is David Sami with A Christian Journey. Today I want to talk about how can we become better husbands. I've been married for about 33 years and I consider myself a very average husband. But if I wanted to become a better one, what are some of the principles? What are some of the guidelines that I should follow in order to become a better husband? I looked into the scriptures and I came up with 5 things to do and 4 things not to do in order to become a better husband. Now, the first thing that the Bible actually tells us is she is your companion and we need to show honor to our wives. Now, when you think about it, your wife under normal circumstances would be the last person that you be with, because kids usually they end up growing up and they move on, but your wife is the person that lives with you the longest. She is your companion. And the Bible tells us that the husbands need to honor their wife, and that word honor really means something so valuable, something that you paid a high price for in order to get. If you can imagine, like something that costed you a lot to purchase, you're not going to treat that item cheaply. You would look after it, you care for it, because it has costed you so much. God wants us to consider our wives as number one in our lives, just below Him, that she is our companion, and we need to treat her as a very valuable person, that she is the most valuable person to us after God. The second thing that we want to do and keep in mind is become a student of your wife. What are her bents? What are her personality and character like? And live in accordance with those character traits, personalities, and the way she is, rather than trying to change her. I know that we seem to always 100% from our wives, but we want to be accepted the way we are. We want understanding for ourselves, but we want perfection from our wife. You see, after a while, you are going to know these things about your wife that maybe you don't like, or character flaws. But the thing is, your life would be the best that it can be with those character flaws, with those shortcomings. And you constantly trying to change her or constantly trying to mold her in a way that she is not, it would only cause friction in your marriage. It would only cause hardship in your marriage. But we need to kind of, to a certain extent, accept our wife the way they are and live in harmony with those directions and live, in a sense, in line with who she is, and not to try to constantly change her. As a matter of fact, a little bit later I'm going to talk about, well, what do you do then when you see something in your wife that you don't like? What is the best way to bring it up and see if it could be resolved? But for now, you want to get to know your wife and live in harmony with who she is and not try to change her. The third thing that the scripture emphasizes is to love your wife. But what does that mean? You know, there are 3 things that would encompass the idea of love in a biblical marriage, the way that love is described, agape, in the Bible. The first thing is, you want to always consider what's best for her. She will be able to tell during the course of your relationship if you have her best interest at heart or if you don't. But as a husband, as somebody who wants to become a better husband, you need to start thinking of her and what's best for her above what's best for you. That there will come times that you need to sacrifice. You need to let go of what you want for her benefit. And she could tell after a while if you put her interest above your own. And this will only elevate you as a husband. It would make you to look good before her eyes, rather than a person who always thinks of himself first, who wants his wife to conform to his desire, his wishes. So the first thing about love is that you have her best interest at heart, and you do what is good for her. Second thing is that you want to look after her needs, especially financially, that she would be at peace in relationship with you. She wouldn't have to worry about where her next meal is going to come from, or she would always be worried that we are not responsible. We don't look after her needs, and we don't try to establish a peaceful home. Now, most of us, we are in different places in life as far as our financial status or how much money we make. But our wives need to know that we are doing the best we can, that we are not lazy, that we try to provide a good living for her as much as within reason, as much as we are able to, that she can really tell that whether we are genuinely trying to do what is best for her and provide for her needs, or if we are lazy, that we are just kind of taking things for granted or not applying ourselves. So the second concept in loving your wife is to look after her needs. Try to create a good environment where she can be at peace rather than constantly be anxious and worried. And the third thing about love is to try to create a warm relationship with her. A relationship that is warm, that is kind. We need to listen and pay attention to what she says. If we want to have a warm relationship, she needs to know that she can come and talk to us about anything, and we would be listening to her. It isn't so much that maybe she's looking for advice, but she wants to be able to talk to her husband about her day, about things that are concerning. And she needs to know that it matters to us, that we pay attention. When she wants to talk, we are here to listen and not give advice, but just to listen. It matters to me what you're thinking and what you want to talk about. The second thing that will create a warm relationship is that we need to value her opinion. When she gives her opinion, we should not automatically shoot it down or point out all the flaws in her opinion, but value it and listen to her opinion. Listen to what she's saying and pay attention. She needs to know that her opinion matters, that it's not going to be condemned or discarded automatically, that it matters. And when she gives her opinion, her husband pays attention to her. And we need to praise and compliment her. She needs to know that you notice things about her, whether she's changing her appearance or she's trying out new things, that we be one that would notice her and give compliments. Tell her how pretty she is, tell her how good she looks, things that would elevate her. And sometimes I know as husband, we may think that I am showing affection and love, but my wife is not able to interpret my action as loving. For instance, like me, I like to pinch my wife's cheeks. Now, I think I'm showing attention to her, but she might think it's very annoying. Why does he pinch my cheeks all the time? So it would be good to show attention and compliment to her in a way that she understands it. Maybe one way would be is if we ask our wife, how can you tell that I love you or I want to show attention to you? What is the best way that I can express that? Some ladies maybe like to receive gifts. Some ladies maybe like to be told that how much you love them. Some people like compliment. Get to know how your wife understands your attention, your compliments, and act in line with the way she understands. Maybe what is her love language. And begin by doing that regularly so that she would constantly be reminded that you love her and you compliment her in a way that she understands. So these three things encompasses the idea of loving your wife, to have warm relationship with her, to look after her needs, and to consider what is best for her. Now the fourth thing is you want to be faithful to your wife. She needs to know that you are committed to her and you will always be there for her. You will always be on her side. But also that you romantically be faithful to her. That from here on out, only you and you alone will be the object of my romantic love. That I only have eyes for you and I don't consider any other ladies romantically. Like when you are out with her, make sure that you don't look in a way that could be interpreted as lustfully after other women, or do not praise other women highly before your wife. You only want her to know for a fact that you only have eyes for her. Now you may compliment other ladies, but as a rule, I think it may be wise not to shower other ladies with a lot of praise and compliments before your wife, especially if you are with her friends or other people, that she would not interpret your praise of other women as demeaning for her and you have eyes for other people. She needs to know that you are faithful to her and she is the only one in your life. So number 4 is to be faithful in always being there for her, on her side, and making sure that she is the only one that you romantically are interested in. Number 5 is you want to be a godly example to her. Be a good example to her. You know, in the Bible, any position of leadership can have an application to the person who wants to be a leader. Like in the book of Proverbs, when you read about kings, where you read about thrones, where you read about shepherds, these all have an application, or there are a type of a leader. And we can glean insight by looking at what the Bible says about this position of leadership and how we may apply it to our lives. Like for instance, in book of Proverbs, one of the statements about throne or kingship is established by righteousness. And what that means is that if you want to be a person, that you want to be a good leader at home or be considered in a position of leadership, you need to do what is right. Many men make a mistake of wanting to establish a leadership or making sure that everybody recognizes that they are the boss in the family. They raise their voice or they try to put fear into the rest of the family member. But in reality, that undermines your relationship. You can make your wife fearful or you can make your kids fearful of you, but in a long run, it would not produce good result. But if you be an example and do what is right, leadership and authority would naturally flow to you. Your wife will begin to view you as a person who does what is right. You become elevated in her eyes, and she would begin to trust you and trust your decision and value your way of doing things because you do what is right, and you are becoming a good example to her. This is the number 5 things to consider if you want to become a better husband. Be a godly example. Be true to your values and principles. Follow through with what you say, and always be thoughtful and kind. So these are 5 things to keep in mind if you want to become a better husband. You may want to consider these 5 things as directions in life that you begin to implement and follow in these paths, and allow these paths to lead you to become a better husband, to become someone that your wife would really look up to and is happy to be with you. But there are 4 things not to do if you want to be considered a good husband, if you want to become a better husband. Number 1, never correct your wife. Now, this is one that we may think, well, what do I do then if she does something that is annoying, or if she does something that is not good? If you see something in your wife that you don't appreciate, or you want her maybe possibly consider changing, never come right out and try to correct her. But when you both are relaxed and you both are maybe having a conversation, bring it up as a form of what would be more beneficial for family if this behavior or habit would be different. Let me give you an example. Maybe you're an orderly person, but your wife is messy. And after a while, that gets under your skin. You don't want to come and tell your wife, honey, you need to be more orderly. You know, this can't go on. I'm getting really irritated. Please be more orderly. You see, that's one way of doing it. But another way is that maybe you talk to your wife and say, honey, do you think would it be more beneficial for our family as a whole, and even for us, that if we try to be a little bit more orderly? Because sometimes I think, you know, we try to locate something, but we can't because things are disorganized and it's not orderly. What do you think? And allow her to respond to what you're sharing. See, you are not telling her she's disorderly or she's unorganized. You're just bringing up maybe a fact that might be apparent, but that how it would be beneficial if we go in another direction. This way, she's not going to feel attacked, but she may consider, yes, you know, that may be a good idea. Now, if she tries to implement it and it's not working, or you feel like she's not really applying herself to what you two agreed on, you can bring it up again in a very nice way and gentle way that, honey, do you think we are doing what we agreed on to try to be orderly? How do you think we are doing? And let her give you feedback. Let her tell you, you know, what she's doing, or why maybe she's not able to, or why it hasn't worked out. But if you bring up something to your wife once and twice and it does not get resolved, leave it at that. Recognize that maybe her upbringing, her character, or pattern of behavior is so molded in that direction that she is going to have a hard time and a struggle to change. Now there is 2 options left. Either you take on the additional responsibility of trying to make things organized, or you live with the accepted fact that maybe our life is going to be a little bit disorganized. It would be better to accept your wife that way rather than keep nagging her, rather than keep bugging her for something that maybe she's not able to do. You see how hard it is for us ourselves to change our habits, our pattern of behavior. Well, it's the same thing for her. But the best thing that we can do is be an example of how good it is to be orderly, and maybe take on the responsibility in the areas that matters to you for it to be orderly. But accept the rest. You see, a good marriage is not a marriage that has no flaws in it. That does not exist. But a good marriage is a marriage that can be the best in the presence of these shortcomings, with these inadequacies, because you're accepting it and you're moving on without getting bogged down, without bogging your wife down, without creating conflict, that you're recognizing that maybe she has a hard time, maybe this is not her, maybe she's not able to become orderly. But it's okay. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. Don't correct your wife, but bring things up in a way that what is best for you two, or what is best for your family, and see what happens. And if things didn't go the way you wished or hoped, just accept it and move on. One area of deficiency does not make or break a marriage. It only creates more problem if you keep focusing on that shortcoming and allow that one area to become all encompassing of your marriage. It's only one area. But we need to not lose the fact of all the things that your wife is good at, but this one area. Because after all, we will have shortcomings that our wife needs to accept, and they need to live with our shortcoming. So don't correct your wife. Number 2, never criticize or put down your wife. When she makes a comment, when she gives an opinion, never criticize her. Never make fun of your wife in a way that is demeaning, or she would feel put down by your criticizing or by your even joking, because that would make her feel inadequate. That would make her feel like, maybe I'm a stupid. You always make me feel like I'm a stupid person. Never condemn. Don't criticize. Give opinions in a way that is not in a way directed to her, but that you're sharing. You're thinking what is good. And when she gives her opinion, listen to her. Another pair of eyes would always be helpful, because maybe you're being blindsided. Maybe you absolutely think this is right, but you haven't considered other options, other ways of looking at the same thing. And when your wife makes an opinion, don't shoot it down. Don't put her down, but listen to her. Even if she comes to you and talks about other things that you may not agree with, that's okay. But don't be a person who's constantly shooting her ideas down, making her feel inadequate, or constantly criticizing her, constantly trying to look for faults and point out every single flaws and faults that she has. That is very demeaning. And also, never put her down in front of the kids. Never put her down by making a joke about her that would demean her in the eyes of the children. They need to know that you value their mother, and your mother has a high position in your eyes, that you always look at her in a very respectful and value way. Because as the kids watch how you behave toward your wife, they turn around and behave the same way toward her. And worst, they grow up and thinking that that's how you relate to your spouse. You make fun of your wife, you put her down, you don't take her seriously, and you always shoot down her opinion. That's how our boys would behave to their future wives. And our daughters would assume that this is normal, that their husband can behave this way and it be acceptable. So never criticize and demean and put down your wife. Number three, the third thing that you should not do is never make her feel inadequate or unintelligent. Now, we already talked about this, but very important that she does not feel inadequate because you always poke fun or you always demean her opinion. Number four, don't try to become intimate every time she shows attention to you. Now, this is something that many women have mentioned to me over the years, that as soon as I want to come and sit down and talk to my wife, talk to my husband, he wants to become intimate. I cannot sit next to him and show affection or try to talk to him without him becoming intimate. You see, there are times that your wife wants to talk to you without having sex, without having intimacy. She just wants to sit and talk. Or she wants to come and maybe show you some bodily affection, but she's not thinking of intimacy. We should not interpret every single thing as, okay, let's be intimate, or constantly want to be intimate above and beyond what is reasonable. So this is something that we need to keep in mind, because many times maybe your wife just wants to talk to you and that's all, but not allow it to go to intimacy. But be willing to always listen, see what she has to say, be interested in her opinion, in what she wants to talk to you. Maybe she had the whole day with kids and now she wants to have some adult conversation, and she comes to you for some conversation, but we interpret it as intimacy, or we are kind of like discarding what she's trying to say and we just want to go and become intimate. No, always listen to your wife when she wants to talk. And as a matter of fact, take the initiative to talk and allow her to talk to you when she wants to talk to you, when she has something in her heart, and not always make everything to lead to intimacy. So these are 4 things to keep in mind not to do if we want to become a better husband. Never correct your wife, never criticize her or put her down, never make her feel inadequate or unintelligent, and don't make everything to become intimacy when all she wants to do is talk. So these are some things that, again, the underlying principle of everything we talk about are in the scriptures. But even if you're not a Christian, consider these things that we shared and to see if you could apply them to your marriage and if it would be beneficial. Because I could look at myself and think of how I can improve. Again, I'm a very average husband, but I've been married for 33 years. And some of these things, I see the inadequacy in myself, that I could be better. And I want to be a better husband. I want to be a husband that my wife would think that, you know, he's the best person to be with. I am very fortunate that I'm with him. That's how I want to be. But I know that I'm not there. But I want to progress in those directions. I want to become a better husband. And some of these directions, we can look at them as kind of guidelines or tools that how we can implement these things into our life and become a better husband. So just a few thoughts to share with the husbands and people. Maybe you're not even married yet, but you may want to consider these things when that day does come, that you be a good husband. So until next time, may the Lord be with you. May he watch over you. May he make his face to shine upon you. This is David Sami with A Christian Journey.